You alluded to it earlier on, that we're not practicing democracy. So give it a name. What are we practicing?
Morontocracy is what I call it.
What?
Morontocracy.
Meaning?
Government of morons, for morons, and run by morons.
Isn't that too strong a word to use? That's derogatory, actually.
It is not derogatory. I'm the one who said it. If they feel bad about it, they can.
You want elections? We will not vote for you if you call out morons.
No, I'm not calling the people morons. I'm saying the governments that we are practicing.
Corrupt politicians, apathetic civil, populists, or compromised electoral institution. Which is more dangerous?
All of them are a dangerous mix. It's called a cocktail.
Deadly cocktail.
Yes, and when they use the word cocktail to describe a poison, you know that it means more than one. They will kill faster. Any of them could kill you. Yeah, a complacent populace can kill you. Corrupt politicians will kill you. And a compromised electoral system will kill you the same way. If the three of them are mixed together, they'll kill you faster. Obasanjo knew that Yaradua was going to die. He said it later. He had to be one of the people opposing him. But because he had no experience in things that matter, the experience he's had is how to be wicked, how to be mischievous.
General.
Yes.
Our guest today is Mr. Omoyele Sowore, former presidential candidate and currently national chairman of the African Action Congress Party of Nigeria. You're welcome, Omoyele. You're welcome to the show. Now, let's get right into it. The Electoral Reform Bill was hurriedly signed into law by President Bola Ahmed Tinubu. In your view, why would the president hurriedly sign this law? What is the president afraid of? And does this speak well of him?
Well, I'm not in a position to say what speaks well of him or not. But what is well known was that he was the one who designed the bill to put a caveat on one of the most important provisions of the bill, which is that electronic transmission of results must be done as the elections are concluded. But what he's obviously afraid of is transparency. And the only way they can sustain their hold on power in this country is not to allow for free, credible, and very transparent elections. And that has been their way of doing things. He, particularly the president, loves opaqueness. He has gotten away with it for so long, being financially involved in companies that you will never be able to tell who is involved, like Alpha Beta in Lagos, that takes almost all the taxes in Lagos. It's one example. Even his coming to power was such that he knew that he had no credibility. He knows that to retain his hold on power, there must be some kind of selection, not selection. And these are ways through which he feels that he can achieve that. Otherwise, your question is then legit. You have all the governors of most of the states camping to your party. Councillors, chairmen, senators, everybody, according to you, is doing your business. So why are you afraid of elections? He should be the one who, if you believe that he's popular, should be the one championing transparent elections. But, the low part, of course, can't change the spoils.
Section 60, subsection 3, if I'm not mistaken, gives INEC the right to fall back on manual collation of results if there's communication failure, so they say. Now, do you see this as legalized, a way to legalize rigging, or it's legitimate?
It has always been that the law, as of the last time it was made, has already made a provision for INEC to do manual collation whenever there's network failure. But what has also been established is that the machine, known as BVAS, can actually keep a record of an election result that was taken at the polling unit. Even when it can't transmit, it has the capability to screenshot the result, which is basically what we're discussing here. That's the right word. A screenshot of the results from EC8A. Put it in a memory of beavers. And a beavers transmits whenever it can find network. What I mean is telecoms network. Because the beavers machine is a bimodal machine. It has offline and online modes. So when it comes online, no matter how long it takes, it could transmit still to the IRF portal of INEC where it can be viewed. So, but they don't want any of that. And what is the crux of this is to have advantage in courts, because courts have always used ambiguity to translate law. The moment you start putting may or shall or could, then the courts have a leeway. Lawyers will make an argument that there was never a time this was made mandatory. What the public is asking for is mandatory transmission. So whatever happens, what overrides all is what is mandatorily transmitted. But what they're saying is what overrides all is what is manually produced. And that was what Tinubu was jubilating about yesterday, that computer cannot tell us how to do this. We will rely on human beings because we have enough human beings to rig the election and translate the results the way we want as opposed to what the people decided. But what this is telling you is that they're no longer sure that all their tactics are going to help them cling to power this time around. And they want to, of course, change the process and the people. Because the majority of Nigerians want these protections in place, even though, and I have said this so many times, so that's not my preference. My preference would have been electronic voting. Mm-hmm. It's more, foolproof than transmission of results that already been tampered with, if you say so.
While the president was signing, the bill into law yesterday at the Villa, he said the purpose of the reforms and what he was signing was to provide inclusivity. It was a pragmatic way of inclusion for rural dwellers where there may be communication breakdown because perhaps maybe Nigeria does not have full, total mobile telephony, coverage. How do you respond to this?
He knows, and you and I know, that the percentage of the country not covered by telecommunication is very negligible. Mm. But in all of this, they have targeted areas across the country where they think they can go in and manipulate results and realize that the only way is to have that protection in place for the results that are mangled to become legally acceptable. Like I said, all this is preparation for courts because our elections have become so illegitimate that we rely on courts. So all of us will vote and we'll wait for 7 people to decide the winner. All this is done in preparation for challenges in the courtroom and to be able to say, look, we didn't promise you that electorally transmitted results are legit or they themselves can be legit. So what is basically is that if INEC presents electronically transmitted results and that is where the opposition wins, the courts can accept the unelectronically transmitted results as a place where they won. And that will become acceptable because they say, well, the human factor is what is supreme. Whereas we're saying the digital factor would have been supreme if it were done otherwise.
Okay, now the deed is done now, as it were.
It's not done. I don't know why people say that, except if Nigerian people just accept that the deed is done. In that case, the deed is done. But if we said no...
What are the options?
The options are for Nigerians to come out in mass and force their hands to ensure that they do what we want. So
who is mobilizing Nigerians?
I'm sure there are a lot of people who feel that way, but like I said, the Nigerian people must also stop waiting for people to mobilize them. It's their country. So why can't we all mobilize ourselves? We should be mobilizing ourselves and not rely on one person to mobilize. If Nigeria gets free and fair election tomorrow, is it one person that will benefit? It's going to be better for Nigeria's democracy.
You're one of the leading opposition figures, and you've been at this for forever.
I don't know where they register people as opposition figures. And you got the impression.
Opposition political figures.
Yes,
Does that sound better?
I've always been opposed to, even when I was in politics, I've always been opposed to bad governance, corruption, and this manipulation of our political process.
Some have said one of the options to go to court. Would you be seeking legal redress?
No, even when they had the election last election, everybody was asking, eyes on the judiciary. I was the first person to tell you that it's a waste of time. I would rather we defeat them outside than defeat them in courts. The courts are not the place where, even the American system where we borrowed our democracy from, the courts have very negligent role in determining the outcome of elections. They have it as an unwritten rule that they don't interfere. Here, it is your courts that determine who the primary winner is. You move from there to who gets on the ballot paper. Courts are making decisions day before elections to remove and substitute candidates. That's unacceptable. That's not democracy. That's judicial rigmarole and should be completely expunged from our system. The courts should have in fact, the only thing that the court should do, in my view, is to come and just symbolically approve the elections, not to come and tell you that, we want to look at who won and who didn't win. How could 200 million people vote and you wait for 6 people to determine the outcome?
You have a point saying, courts in the main do not determine winners of elections in America. But this is not about loss or,
No, I'm giving you that example because you're asking, will I go to court to challenge the Senate? Why would you be wasting your time going to court to challenge the Senate? Part of our problem is also our judiciary. Do you think that if the judiciary intervenes, they can reverse the decision of the Nigerian Senate? They will tell you that the judicial arm has no right to interfere in the legislative decisions of the country, and they'll get away with it. This is not new. So anybody that's going to court, I wish them luck. I would rather go to the streets than go to courts.
There is a 30 days window for the president to study the bill. And studying the bill involves passing it to the Ministry of Finance, that is given the responsibility of funding INEC, passing it to the president's Attorney General to study it and advise the president, passing it to the president's special advisor or maybe liaison on National Assembly. So all these bodies, are they saying this law was passed 2 days ago, yesterday, and then yesterday it was signed into law? All of these gaps, are there not sufficient grounds to test it in the judiciary?
And they come and say, yes, we've been waiting for the bill. In fact, the moment the bill was first promulgated, we had obtained a copy and gotten everybody ready. We're ready. And that's why the president passed it. What do you say to the judge? You're going to tell the judge that the Attorney General couldn't read the bill overnight? I'm just also playing what you guys call the devil's advocate. That you don't have the kind of judiciary that can help you make this challenge, but you have the people, if you're serious, that can put their boots on the ground and force their hands and make them do what we want. But it is when sometimes we're not ready that we start over-relying on the judiciary. Nigerian judiciary is even worse than, sometimes I think they're worse than the executive arm, because they're the ones who are the enablers of impunity in this country, Nigerian judiciary. And you can quote me anywhere because I don't think there are many Nigerians who go to court more frequently than I do.
Okay, I would have come to you before, but now that you're on it, what has led to the confidence of the public in the Nigerian judiciary? What has led to it?
The Nigerian public doesn't have confidence in the judiciary.
Why?
Because the judiciary has shown itself transparently to be fraudulent, deceptive, and manipulative of, what the public understands to be justice. So You see a lot of legalism but no justice. Any kind of legal process that does not guarantee justice cannot bring about explicit or implicit confidence from the Nigerian people. If you were to have legitimate polling of opinions today in the country by pollsters, I think the judiciary would be staying at the bottom with Nigeria police in terms of the most untrustworthy, arm of government, or agency. So there's no question about it. It is because these judges have, over time, just become problematic, and have been standing in the way of justice. They give contradictory rulings even when it's the same level. Sometimes you've heard cases where the Court of Appeal will reverse the Supreme Court. Where do you hear that happen anywhere in the world?
Under the military, the judiciary stood firm. They were the last man standing, as it were, against military fascism. We're in a democracy 27 years now. What is responsible for the seeming loss of confidence in the Nigerian judiciary? What is responsible?
First, I want to say to you that maybe you are one of the few people who still feel we are in a democracy. You Nigerians no longer think this is democracy. This is not the government of the people, by the people, and for the people anymore. So the moment democracy's meaning don't make sense to Nigerian people, then you can understand why they don't trust all these agencies that are supposed to deliver democratic dividends to them. We are not in a democracy because this is not what democratic rule is all about. We have been some form of quasi-government that probably only history can define. But this is not democracy. This is not the democracy they taught me in social studies, in government, in university. If we are practicing democracy, the judiciary is supposed to be, so you have said it now, that even when it was not democratic rule, the judiciary was the only arm of government perhaps, even when we lost, pressure groups like the labor movement, the student movement. I was saying in a different interview today, by the way, that I had more trust that the military will respect court judgments than it is under the current situation. I've been a victim of judgments, orders flagrantly and dismissed with impunity. I was abducted in front of a judge, and she ran and her wig was in the air. And she came back the next day pretending as if nothing happened. Under a normal circumstance or under normal circumstances, she would not accept to come back until the culprits are about to book. But nobody even talks about it anymore. So what does that tell you? People have lost confidence because what our judiciary is supposed to do, which is to deliver what is apparent to all to be justice, it has failed in that regard, and it has failed transparently. An average person can tell you that when they are going to court is because they have no option. It's not because they expect something different will happen. Even when something different happens, when it seems like apparently a judge did well, there's another judge around the corner waiting to. I've had instances where orders were given by court registrars and not the judge themselves.
Okay, we'll come back to this, but let's continue on our political, overview. Do you trust INEC under this new act to deliver free, fair, credible elections in 2027? That's one. Then, addition to that, compare Professor Josh Amukwita to his predecessor, Professor Mahmoud Yakubu. Do you think, in your opinion, Professor Josh will do a better job than Professor Mahmoud?
Asking me to trust INEC is as good as asking me to trust the mafioso not to commit crime of any kind. INEC is one of Nigeria's biggest problems, in addition to, of course, the judiciary. And the reason is that INEC has never, in whatever guise, delivered justice, when I mean just electoral justice to Nigerian people. The closest we had to it, the guy chickened out. Professor Wosu. That was 1993, where this country for the first time had a semblance of free and fair election. And they did not deliver the outcome to the people. When it was FEDECO in 1979, which was the first time, I think it's Federal Electoral Commission. 1979 was the first time I was conscious and everybody knew what FEDECO was. He did not deliver electoral justice. Wolowo won the election, popular vote, and they went back and changed the numbers through the judiciary and said, because they didn't meet the 12 to 3rd, the 12 to 3rd majority. Richard Akinjide. Wolowo was denied the opportunity to be president of Nigeria. Abiola won election, INEC did not announce it. Obasanjo reportedly didn't win in 1999, INEC announced the winner. INEC is the electoral body that announces winners of results that never participated in results. They did it in Imo State. So how can you trust such a body? And if you're talking about Mukuta, I met Mukuta once since he became INEC chairman. I've spoken to him once. It sounds like a nice guy, but that's what every INEC chairman starts as. But the last time I met with him, I could not fail to notice his naivete. And the reason was that he loves the echo chambers. I think it's because they say he was a priest and he's a lawyer. He's just like talking, So he sat there and looking at you like, sir, do you apologize? It sounds like a teddy bear here. Reason is that he's the last of the jigsaw puzzles that was brought into INEC. Ask yourself who appointed the spokesperson.
Who did? Tell us, who did?
Tinubu's people. Who appointed his chief of staff? Tinubu's chief of staff.
How do you know this?
Of course, I'm an investigative journalist. I don't even need to go that far because they have names. You can Google and see who they were with before they became. So then the one who's going to provide his police, DSS. I'm not saying that, but it takes, a lion heart to act differently from the script. Then look at who the electoral commissioner, the national commissioners are before he came in. APC people. They're already in place. He was the last person to occupy the seat. If you want to know INEC, very well. Don't even do any investigative report. Let somebody take a picture of INEC national commissioners and do what they call physiognomic analysis of their faces. You will just tell that these are Tinubu's people.
Does the face show?
Oh yeah, that's this branch of science called physiognomy or something, where the face can tell of who a person would be by looking at them.
That's new to me.
Well, you can find out.
With this new law now, is the 2027 general elections, is the foregone conclusion? So you guys are not...
Look, laws have never made elections foregone conclusions. It is the Nigerian people that should serve as the final word on this matter. You can we're talking about the military now. The military Babangida made decrees. And yet, he couldn't even hand over on 27th of August. When the people said, no, we're not going to accept this. So there could be a bunch of interventions, but the most important one, the most sacrosanct is the people saying this is what we want. And then the 10,000 people who are occupying positions in the country, where there are maybe 1 million security forces. If we just have 5 million people say no, they will all fizzle out and they will line up behind the people. So, and that is what I call democracy, by the way. Democracy is not just announcement of election dates and electoral acts. In fact, if you look at the definition of democracy, you've read every literature about democracy. You never find the word electoral act there. You find the word elections. Yes. So for the Electoral Act in Nigeria, helps you to avoid elections and codify what we call selections. Yes. Now,
the state of play now with this new act, because you sound very disappointed and quite demoralized. So would you contest the 2027 or you just give up?
I've always stated that I am a pessimist when it comes to Nigeria. I expect the worst and hope for the best. So I'm not disappointed. In fact, I've been warning people before now that Tinubu wasn't planning for elections. It's the same thing in 2023. But to come to the question about whether I will participate, see, there are a number of reasons why I participate in elections. One of it is that, as critical as I am of the system, I'm a Democrat. It was a choice that I made that democracy was the best system of government. I have not reversed my position, even though the ground gets shaky on a daily basis. It was really that even the people who manufacture democracy no longer practice democracy. So the second aspect is that participating in election is beyond election. It is also a mobilization of people to understand what is wrong with the system, not what the system say will do for you right. So I then will go and answer your question by saying, we have a political party registered to participate in election, partisan politics. And we also have a movement that don't need to participate in election. We have a full spectrum of ways to respond to oppression, corruption, and manipulation. And we will decide how to engage. I was the first person in this country who participated in election in 2019 and decided to declare revolution now, immediately after the election. And everybody was like, why don't you wait for the next election? I said, no, because this wasn't an election. So you keep looking for election until you find it. Credible elections. If you haven't done an election, it doesn't count as far as we are concerned. We're revolutionaries. So we can participate as we choose, but that doesn't take our eyes from the final goal, which is to bring about revolutionary politics in which the people have the ultimate authority to decide who their leaders should be, whether it is through the ballot or through the streets.
Can just having cycles, 4-year cycles of elections, can it actually deliver the needed change, fundamental change, in Nigeria? Because this is about the 7th cycle of election in this 27
I'm
years.
on the same page with you. I have always stated that election by themselves, as we know them, cannot bring about democratic progress. It cannot bring about economic progress. Yes. In fact, part of the reason why some people celebrate military dictatorship in places like Burkina Faso, Mali, and the rest of the Nigerians is because they are starting to lose faith in electoral politics. You shouldn't be shocked that the last general election we had the lowest participation in the history of elections in this country. Only 28% of registered voters participated in the election. And with what Tinubu just signed yesterday, if we don't challenge and defeat him and defeat it, I don't see more than 10% of Nigerians participating in the next election. The faith is completely eroded. But the interesting thing is that this is what they've been looking for. Less participation in election and more wins for them. Because they know that if there's mass participation in election, they can't win elections. And if the mass participate in elections and you don't win, you cannot ascend the throne. They know that. So if you can reduce numbers to a manageable number of participants, you beat up some, you confuse some, you bribe some, you are declared the winner. You can wake up one day and say, oh, Nigerians, forgive us.
Why I asked that issue or raised the issue before you stepped in was in the years, particularly under military, yes, we had strong civil society voices. When I mean strong, I mean potent voices. Bekora Somkuti, Ganefawa Imu, Campaign for Democracy, so many civil liberties organizations, Olisagbakoba, just name them. Besides yourself, and I'm not saying this to patronize you, I cannot count off my head 3 strong voices, of civil society that challenge governments. Even the Nigerian Labour Congress, that used to be very strong, seem to disappear. No pens, of course.
It's not so that disappear. They've disappeared.
So why is it that the civic space has more or less shut down?
So it's a number of reasons. One was that the civic space, as you described it, at that time was organic.
Yeah.
And what was organic is that the student movement was there.
You rose through now.
Yes. And it was uncompromising. The professional bodies like the Nigerian Bar Association, uncompromising. Even Nigerian Medical Association, where Becker first came from, uncompromising. Oil workers, uncompromising. Nubife, that's bank workers, uncompromising. Insurance, uncompromising. Even the guys who control the airspace, they were unionists. But all these people, all these groups, first were beaten black and blue through all kinds of physical attacks by the military, and then they were infiltrated. And what made it worse is that our definition of civil society has also become monetized, and it also came under international infiltration. So NGOs came to replace social movements, and the money, it's easier for you to get money as an NGO if you are willing to work with the government than if you are opposed to the government. So if you go and look at the CAC today, there are probably more NGOs than there are schools in Nigeria. Everybody has a mushroom NGO to get funds because it gets to a point it also became a scam. But countries that are doing well across the world that have civil society that are also social movements. Social movements have ideology, they have consciousness, they have conscience. Those ones are no longer in existence. You look at the NANS today, NANS is worse than the people in government. All of their leaders are more corrupt than an average politician, and the aspiration of a NANS president is to become the biggest next thief, either as a governor, special assistant. It's corruption. You talk about the MBA today. The MBA is more interested in tinted glasses than human rights. Because I challenged the president. I said, why are you concerned about tinted glasses and police? How many cars are there in Nigeria with tinted glasses? That's your priority, but the police is dragging people through the courts with cyber crime, and even the National Union of Journalists no longer talk about journalism. Everybody's aspiring to become the oppressor. So that is why you cannot really say that it's social. And then the last part is that majority of the guys that we fought with had two issues. A lot of them weren't prepared for a prolonged battle. So guys that we were in campaign for democracy together with Becker and some quickly thought the battle will last only a few months. Abiola will become president and they can resign and retire. Only to discover that the battle didn't end. So, and then lastly, you then had people who knew the tactics of the social movement, who now work for government. So, and whenever you have such transition or transfer of knowledge, dangerous knowledge, then they know how to wear you out. So when you are protesting, well, they'll say, look, just give them 3 hours, they'll go home. In 1.5 hours, nobody's left. So they are there, and that's why I tell people, the most dangerous people that can take power are people who switch from left to right. Most dangerous. So you have a Keyamo there. What do you think he'll be telling President Tinubu? In fact, there's no protest in Nigeria until Tinubu came to power that Tinubu did not participate in funding. So you can't use the same tactic he used to come to power to displace him. All these El-Rufai, Malami that they're running around pushing from cell to cell. The reason it's easier for them to deal with them was that they know how to handle them. Because they used to plan these things against other people anyways.
What is responsible for the transformation or transmutation of angels to demons, if I may use that phrase? Just hold on for Sowore. Bayo Onanuga, for instance, you were both in the trenches. You worked together.
Bayo Onanuga was...
Who called you a career anarchist or something? Why would Bola Tinubu, Festus Keyamo, who went to court against the sitting president?
That's what I'm saying. These guys, it didn't start even from Festus Keyamo. It started from the likes of Oshibajo. Oshibajo was Tinubu's lawyer for a long... He was the one who was helping Tinubu while Ghanaian and Keyamos there were fighting him over his certificate. But they knew everything about Tinubu, all his criminal activities. They were the ones who aided and supported him. But they were also the people Because you will be surprised that even Oshibajo used to be in the in the civil society movement. He used to be a professor. He had an NGO at Yaba during the military, and they were writing reports. So what I'm saying is that it is not that they were good people who moved to the bad side. They were guys who were probably bad sides, or who were bad guys, who were envious of the bad guys and couldn't wait to become the bad guys. And when they got there, they became worse.
Many youths now, we have to run, sure. Many youths are losing confidence in this democracy. You alluded to the number of people that participated in the last elections. With all this now going on, what message do you have for the youths to get them re-engaged in our democracy?
So I would go back to what this stubborn petrel, Shem Kuti, used to say about youth. That when you see young people, they're not a political constituency. Young people being young is a demographic. So if you are young and your father is ignorant, you are likely to be ignorant. But when people see you outside and they say I'm injected, they say, this is a youth constituency. But you don't have ideology, There are young people. If you look at the preponderance of young people in political parties, the ruling party has more young people. But the question is, are those young people with conscience? No. So if you're looking for young people who will make change, there has to be young people who have conscience, who have social consciousness, young people who have ideological clarity, young people who can think for themselves. Young people is not a political constituency. It's just a demographic of people under a certain age, with supposedly or arguably more energy than old people. But a lot of these young people, again, are aspiring to become the worst old people in the world.
You alluded to it earlier on, that we're not practicing democracy. So give it a name. What are we practicing?
Morontocracy is what I call it.
What?
Morontocracy.
Meaning?
Government of morons, for morons, and run by morons.
Isn't that too strong a word to use? That's derogatory, actually.
It is not derogatory. I'm the one who said it. If they feel bad about it, they can.
You want elections? We will not vote for you if you call out morons.
No, I'm not calling the people morons. I'm saying the government that we are practicing. You ask for the system of government. Yeah. The people want democracy. The one that they are practicing is morons that are running the system. That's what I mean. And they expect the people who they work for or work with to be morons. And they run it by that rule, yes.
Of these three, which is more dangerous to, or which has contributed more to how Nigeria is? Corrupt politicians, apathetic civil, populists, or compromised electoral institution? Which is more dangerous?
All of them are a dangerous mix. It's called a cocktail.
Deadly cocktail.
Yes. And when they use the word cocktail to describe a poison, you know that it means more than one, they will kill faster. Any of them could kill you. Yeah, a complacent populace can kill you. Corrupt politicians will kill you. And a compromised electoral system will kill you the same way. If the three of them are mixed together, they'll kill you faster.
Are you ready to work, into alliance with any of your colleagues in the opposition camp? And if you were not on the ballot, or if a consensus comes, which of them would you like rather than yourself?
These people you have mentioned, yes, we have all met before.
Yes.
And we've all had conversations about who is the best.
Yes.
All of them, in one way or the other, have said the best will be a guy who is not afraid of anybody, who understands what he's doing, who will not compromise even at gunpoint. And they know the person who has those physical, mental, and intellectual capacity. They know it's me. But we are yet to have people in the country, so-called, who are selfless enough to say, look, it's time to abandon everything that I'm having, like you have in other countries, and support the best so that our country. The way to describe it is the protest we just had. Do you know for the first time Amechi came to protest.
Yeah.
Peter Obi came to protest. The reason they protest, you know why? Because they stand to benefit from it. The first time Peter Obi ever protested, I knew before this one, was when they demolished his brother's house at Ikeja. I said, wow, I didn't know Peter Obi was such a revolutionary. But it's because it's something that affects him directly. Until you find politicians who are willing to protest for things that don't benefit them, or the things that can inconvenience them, then I'll start taking them seriously. Not to go and fight for free and fair elections with the hope that if the election is free, you can win. I want you to fight for poor people, fight for education, fight for healthcare. Go and stand with people who are unlawfully and unjustly arrested and detained or imprisoned. People like Nnamdi Kanu, which I fought for, without expecting anything, sometimes aside from derision and disgrace and torture. So those are the people I take serious. But people who are fair weather activists, you can count me out of any coalition for them. And most importantly, if you want to mention people, maybe you can mention a guy that has never been in government and you can talk about. But all these people who are 8 years governors, 4 years, who did themselves having had 8 years to turn around their state, don't mention their name in front of me when you're saying who would you support. I can't support failure. No matter how properly, decorated or packaged.
That's your view. Now, here's the issue. You do not have technocratic experience, nor governmental experience.
No.
Hold on, Yele, hold on. Some have argued that with your skill set, you would make an excellent senator. So why don't you vie for the Senate and become Julius Malema of Nigeria? What do you say to this?
See, that's the problem you people make, is that anybody in life who wants to make a great head start, you don't start from where is behind, you start from where you can give your best. And that is why, as you're sitting here, you will never ask your child to go to a university that is not good because somebody convinced you that a good university is too much for your child. You take him to where he can get the best knowledge, best exposure, and give his best, even when he might not be the best. Anybody who wants to go to the Senate is at liberty to go to the Senate. Sowore has never indicated interest in going to the Senate because that is not where I think I can give my best to the country. Where I can give my best to the country is to be the commander-in-chief of the armed forces, rally around all the technocrats. The people you call technocrats are not technocrats. There's people who have never done anything technocratic in their lives. And the experience you describe is the experience that put your country in the situation, in this tailspin that it is. Who are the most experienced two people in Nigeria's political history who have been president before? If I ask you, do you know them? The two most experienced.
Tell me.
Obasanjo, president 1979 as a military guy, came back 1999, became president. That's some experience you would think.
Yeah.
What did it take you? Nowhere. Buhari.
Some will tell you no, that he did a lot.
Okay. He did a lot. And where's Nigeria in the Committee of Nations where he was president?
His successors derailed. That's the argument.
Yeah. So do you know that part of how you know an experienced person is who they work for as a successor? If you're a very well experienced person as president, you would never have chosen a guy who you know is with a terminal disease as your successor. Obasanjo knew that Yaradua was going to die. He said it later. He had to be one of the people opposing him. But because he had no experience in things that matter, the experience he's had is how to be wicked, how to be mischievous.
General.
Yes. And your second most experienced president was Buhari.
Let's not go.
No. We have to. Because we're talking experience. He was Minister of Petroleum Resources, governor of two states, Gongola, that used to be Adamawa and Borno State, right? He then came and managed the biggest slush fund in Nigeria's history, PTF, or PTF as it was called, and then came back in 2015. He was kicked out in 1985, came back in 2015. Most experienced. Where did it take you? And I think that's where we should end the conversation about experience and technocrats. Can we stop deceiving ourselves? What is the experience of the guy in Senegal, president of Senegal right now? Tax collector. They don't even have my kind of experience. Now you're talking about Malema. Malema is in the house of his a congressman in South Africa. That was his choice. And Malema will tell you any day that the best way he can make South Africa great is to become president. Do you know why? Because anytime he says something too much in the house, they throw him out, like physically. Just all the time out. In Nigeria, you have Natasha. He talks too much. Just throw him out for 6 months. And then the judges said, we're right to throw her out. I'm not saying that if I go, but I never want to be senator of the Federal Republic of Nigeria. That's not my goal. I'm not looking for senatorial allowances. I'm looking to make this country a great person. And the best experience you can have is to have been honest for 36 years. That's a lot of experience.
Let's make progress, Yele.
Yes.
Let's do scenario. You win the presidency. Do you actually think one person can fix this country with all the rot, all the systemic rot, values, degradation, institutional decay? Do you think one man, and Omoyele Sowore by accident, hold on, Yele, by accident, by destiny, becomes president in 2027? Can you or anyone individual, because Nigerians seem to be placing much hope on just one person, or does the system, entire system have to be brought down and then rebuilt?
So wait, do you know how many people you are entitled to appoint when you're president of Nigeria?
Yes.
Do you know how many?
Yes.
10,000.
10,000
Yes.
appointees.
Yes, that's what. And the president, the moment you become president, you can fire everybody who was appointed before you and put in 10,000. Yeah? And if I have even half of that appointed by me, because the president of Nigeria is not a magician. That's the truth. But he's the chief recruitment officer of the country. He's the chief missionary of the country. If I appoint all the great people that I know, which I can find, and I know where to find them both at home and abroad, and we put access to work, and I cannot, I don't want to make any bogus statement that I will resign after 1 year, but I could. I'm the kind of person who can do that. And I cannot give you electricity. You understand? I may not say maybe 100%, but I know the ideas I can electrify your streets on industrial scale level electricity. Even if that is impossible, I know the pragmatic way to construct a road that will not last 20 years if the road is 300 kilometers. Because I drive on bad roads and I know it is bad. That I cannot fix schools. You understand? The easiest thing to fix are schools that have already been built. Or with all the telecommunication styles. So what I'm trying to tell you is that one man with the right idea, with the right energy, with the right vision, and driven by a mission can make all the difference in the world. There is no time, at any rate, that the Lord did not say. Your constitution says that of all the 250 million people, one man is the most important person, the president of the Federal Republic of Nigeria. So your constitution already took care of a one-man messiah. Because otherwise, we'll probably have a collegiate presidency where they say, go and elect 30 presidents. The law says only one man. The law has already made it constitutionally mandatory that you elect a one man that is competent. The issue is for you as the electorate to find that one man who can deliver on his manifestos, on your aspirations and expectations. And that when he doesn't do that, we'll take him out in 4 years. That's why one foolish man senator was saying that the tenure of the president should be 6 years. 16. Do you want to be under Tinubu's regime for 16 years?
Let's make progress. Do you think President Tinubu can ever, under any circumstance, win free, fair, credible election if they use it? Do you think he can ever win electoral transmission of results?
Tinubu has never and would never support free and fair election because he knew what happened even in 2023. They know what they had to do last minute so that they can manufacture the numbers that gave him the presidency. And having survived that nail biter, that's why he's front, back, center of the desire to have an electoral process that is not transparent and credible. He can't. He knows he can't. And if he could, with all the people he claimed they come to his party, I would have gone to sleep if I was in his place. If genuinely 31 governors moved over to me because I was this genius who had revamped the economy and fixed the country, I would go to sleep until election day. I wouldn't even campaign. But he knows, of course, it's all manufactured.
There are some out there, quite a lot, who believe that 2027 election, is the last chance. I've spoken to so many highly informed people who believe 2027 is Nigeria's last opportunity to rescue this democracy from total collapse.
Yes.
Do you share the same sentiment? Or is already too gone?
See, Nigerians are very interesting people when it comes to using hyperbole. They will say this is the last. But the question is, you ask the people who say it's the last, what are they doing to make it the last? That's where the gaps are, right? They're not doing anything. And some of them are probably, as soon as you leave the place, on the other side saying, don't mind these people. Because it's about what they can benefit. But if we want to make it the last, we'll do it now. It's true, we could. But it's not a function of just hyperbolic expressions. It has to be people who are in action to make it. I used to talk about China. China didn't get here until they decided, after the Opium War, where they were humiliated, that China would never go back until they make progress. But I don't think that there's a point that Nigerians have gotten to that epiphany where they said, this is the last time we will allow ourselves to be humiliated in elections like this. I don't think that decision has been made yet. But it's not too late to make that decision. There's still time, plenty of time.
Your friend, Nasir El-Rufai, is in the news. Suddenly he's become, a victim of state persecution, even though he was, in fact, he played a major role in bringing the president into office. Do you see him as a colleague, or is just infighting?
Look, I know a lot of these guys, and I was introduced to them because I was doing Sahara Reporters. And Sahara Reporters has a way of bringing people, pushing people away and bringing people close, depending on which spectrum of the political ray you are. And I met El-Rufai through Nuhuri Badu, interestingly. When Yaradua was in power, they were driven out of the country, and Ibori was dealing with Nuhuri Badu. And so they came to the US, and so I was relating with them. So I didn't have that kind of relationship you say with your friend, but I did relate with these guys. A lot of Nigerian politicians knew how genuine I was and related with me on those levels. I think the reason most of them respect me is because they know that my position will not change simply because we're friends or I've met you before or we're acquaintances. So that's the thing. But to your question, is that him feeling like he's a victim, I've answered it earlier. What El-Rufai is going through now is what El-Rufai did to people when he was governor of Kaduna State. El-Rufai even confessed that he knew about a young person who was critic of his government and out of Kano who disappeared. And that he knows the policeman who carried out the disappearance, and the man is in Ekiti. Yes, El-Rufai once told you that he was paying bandits so that they can leave people alone. And he turns around and said, no, he didn't remember when he said that he never paid bandits, he didn't negotiate with terrorists. El-Rufai is a product of the Nigerian political system. But before you get carried away too much, they will be back with themselves. If the negotiation has not started already. They don't have such fundamental disagreements as to have you so excited that you forget where you are coming from. That's why I cannot sit down with the ADC people. Because 3 years ago, they were the ones who forced this country to its knees. The Malamis, the El-Rufais, the Pantamis. They are the guys who sent me to DSL. I spent 5 months and seized my passport.
Now, some have said that what El-Rufai is going through right now is a warning shot to other opposition political figures. Are you afraid that you are a target? Are you worried that you may be...
It is a warning shot to those who are practicing small time opposition. Do you know how many times I was arrested last year? 5. The IG of police instituted 5 criminal cases against me last year alone. No one of them even mentioned my name, right? By yesterday, the IG has sued me 3 times again. So these are small-time politicians. They are discomforted because they are not used to what they have been exposed to, And you can say that maybe they are getting a dose of their own medicine, but I'm not in the business of vengeance. I'm in the business of fundamental rights. That's why when El-Rufai's passport was seized at the airport, I condemned it. You have no right to be seizing people's passports, whether they're leaving the country. That passport belongs to him. But I cannot prevent the government if genuinely the government, for instance, wants to retrieve the 433 billion naira he stole, they claim he stole from him. I'm anti-corruption. But do it the right way. Don't play games with our intelligence. And we know that they're not interested in fighting corruption. So this is just the excuse to muzzle the opposition. I don't have any doubt about that. But I also don't have any doubt about the fact that these guys have dirty hands, including the people who are after them.
This is what Festus Keyamo tweeted just a few minutes ago. It is amusing, and I quote Festus Keyamo, it is amusing to see how some journalists and core opposition activists, opposition characters, are posing as activists, continually express their own deep-seated biases and as the wishes of the Nigerian people. How and where did they aggregate the views of the Nigerian people, according to Festus Keyamo? How do you respond to this?
Festus Keyamo of blessed memory. That's
wrong. He's alive now.
No, there's a part of man that dies when he switches from a conscientious, but maybe I was wrong. Maybe I thought he used to have conscience. That's why I say of blessed memory. The one that I used to know at Ganifa in Miss Chambers is dead.
Last question.
Yes.
You are 54? 55?
Yes.
February 16.
Yes.
You're just a few days before mine. You can't do this forever. When are you going to quit?
That's what I was told when I was in university, 21 years old, when I was behind that bill. It's like, you can't do this forever. You're going to get tired.
You have a family.
You.
Don't you love a quiet life? Just sit back, stretch your legs, and have a nice time.
Look, don't all of us deserve a quiet life? Don't all of us deserve some great life? I have been privileged and lucky that I've gone from one end of the world to the other, and I'm happy about that. I don't take that for granted. Of course, we could have the question about family, legit, because you have kids who like to see you every morning. But my kids want to have me drive them to school and do nothing else. And I said, Daddy, thank you. When are you coming to get us? But I also look at other kids who can't get to school, or the one who gets to school and can't get back home because terrorists and bandits are abducting them. I'm thinking about people who don't go to bed tonight, where my children, before I left them, used to throw out food, chicken. And, one day my daughter wanted to throw out a big chicken. I almost caught it because my mind was in Nigeria. Kids in Nigeria don't care about expiry dates on milk.
Yeah.
But our kids, before they go to the refrigerator, look at it and say, Daddy, this is expired. Go to the store. And I'm looking at you like, if I take it to Nigeria, there's no expiry date on it. But I'm talking about privilege and but in between that is also that I always ask my family to please lend me to do some good work, Because I was away for 20 years in America. It wasn't the greatest life. But even when it was greatest, I was always thinking about home. There's not a moment passes that I don't think about Nigeria. And quite honestly, and philosophically, the idea of being a stranger your entire life, is that life? Because that's the best you can be. And courtesy of Donald Trump, even when you're a citizen, they can revoke your citizenship at the airport. And you have to come back to where you are naturally. So why don't you all stay home, make our country a better place, so that we can proudly also be selling our citizenship to people for $50,000. Do you know now, and I don't know most people know that, to go to the US, to get a visa, you have to deposit $10,000. And that is a policy made by a person who claims that he cares about Christian genocide. If a number of people are facing genocide, you don't lock the door against them to leave the venue of crisis, you help them get out. When he declared that there was white genocide in the U.S., he immediately declared that if you want to go to the U.S., you have standby refugee, planes. South Africans didn't go. But here you declare that there's Christian genocide. I was reading somewhere today that there's also Christian oppression in Israel, but Israel was never designated as a country of particular concern because they are on the right side of the geopolitical agenda of the U.S. And here we are, and I'll say finally, we're about to undergo recolonization again if we're not careful.